What's up, techies, and welcome to the Josh and Katie Show. I'm Katie.
I'm Josh.
And today we are doing a battle. Startup versus...
What is this?
Oh, there's a V.
That's a V?
Startup versus...
Big tech company. So if you're deciding where to work as part of a tech career, you've probably come across the decision, do I want to work at a big tech company or do I want to work at a small startup?
And we've definitely both have been in that boat. And as many of you know, I am the startup queen. Did entrepreneurship in college, started a company, and then came and joined a startup company here in the Bay Area right out of college. And Josh is a little bit of the opposite.
I've been at some of the biggest tech companies in the world. I've been at Microsoft, Adobe, Tesla, and more recently Twitter.
And since we're married and going through this experience together, we have a pretty good idea of the pros and cons between working at a big company, massive big tech company, and a smaller startup. So we're gonna walk through all of those today and do a little bit of a battle. I think I'm gonna win. I think startup's gonna win.
No way. No
Startup's
way.
got this.
Let us know in the comments if you personally would rather go with a startup or a big tech company and why. Tell us why.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. To start it out, we have perks.
So if Silicon Valley is known for one thing, it is outrageous tech company perks, and they really ball out for employees. And we found this is true across startup and big tech. There's some crazy perks out there.
For these?
Free.
These are complimentary.
Complimentary, free, whatever you want.
What you're saying is whatever I walk away with here
It's free.
doesn't, yeah.
Of course, that clip isn't from real life, but it's honestly not too far off.
No, everything you've heard from Silicon Valley or like random TV shows about millennial tech companies is all true.
So true.
So true.
Let's face it, tech companies have some of the best perks around out of any industry, but not every company is the same. Some companies are a lot more extravagant with their perks than others.
I think there's a common misconception that big tech companies have crazy perks and startups, you're basically struggling. In our experience, my company actually has better perks than Twitter. We're both on like our health insurance and like vision insurance, all of that, because it's better. And then we have like free breakfast and lunch just like Twitter, but we also have like free laundry and a few other small perks like a Warriors suite and like front row tickets to the Giants games that make it kind of fun.
Do you understand what she just said? They have Warriors suite and front row Giants tickets. That's a perk. Like, there's real companies out there that if you work there, you can sit front row at the Giants game.
The 2-1. So I'm gonna fall back.
It's a hard life.
That's a real thing.
It's a hard life. Hard life. What we basically decided for this is that there's really no clear distinction between like big tech and startup as far as perks. It's really just going to be like company to company.
But not every big tech company is the same. When I was at Tesla, they have some of the worst perks that I've ever seen at any company I've been at. No free meals, even team lunches every once in a while when like a special event happened or you hit some milestone. Those were not paid for by Tesla. You had to do out of pocket for your own like celebratory team lunches. And also let's acknowledge that there are definitely startups out there that have like pretty bad perks, especially if it's a cash-strapped startup and they're not making a ton of money. You're probably not going to have as amazing of perks as Katie has.
Yep, so there really isn't like a defining line that like big tech has better perks and startup has worse, or startup has better perks and big tech has worse. It's really going to be a company by company thing. If you're looking for perks, you're going to find it on both ends.
So this one is
a tie.
A tie.
A draw. We'll draw that one. We'll draw.
Big tech company will get them next time.
The next one that we outlined is career progression. So this would be career growth, what you're learning, how many times you get promoted, raises, all of those things.
The nice thing about big tech companies is that it's very clear cut what you have to do to get a promotion. Usually there's an internal company website that will just show you like, here's what's expected to get promoted.
But career progression is one of the main reasons why people join startup companies, because you have such a tremendous opportunity to grow super quickly. So you're definitely thrown into a lot of like high profile projects. You have a lot more responsibilities than you would have at a big tech company, and the company typically is growing quite a bit faster. So it just gives you more and more opportunities to grow and develop and progress in your career. At my company, I've been there for about 2 years and I've already been promoted twice. It's not like a standard big tech company process. It's more you work really hard, you show results, and you have the opportunity to grow. So winner is startup.
Your
If
career.
you want to fast track your career, startup is definitely the place to be.
It's true. We'll give it to them this time, but we're gonna get you soon, startup.
Number 3 is career diversity. So this would be the opportunity to work on totally different projects, totally different teams, and have multiple careers in the same company.
Listen, I think big tech companies are pretty sweet for this. Microsoft, where I was at, for example, there were people that through like 6 years of their career would work on software that runs inside of cars with Microsoft Sync. They'd go work on HoloLens, then they'd go work on Xbox controller hardware, and eventually jump to like web browser technology or something like that. At these big tech companies, they make it very easy to change what team you're on and to jump to entirely new projects. Because of that, you can have a lot of diversity and work on a ton of different cool things across industries, all while being at the same company. Have you guys seen those movies where the guy's stuck in a cubicle working on the same thing for like 5 years straight?
Corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking. Just a moment. Corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking. Just a moment. Corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking. Just a moment. Corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking. Just a moment.
I would say that's a little bit what you're gonna get at a startup working on one thing nonstop.
Oh, wrong. Absolutely 100% false on that note. If you want to stay in the same company for 20 years and live and die there for your whole life, then big tech might be the answer for you. But if you want to jump around, work on new projects, vest new stock, get millions of dollars in multiple stock options, live your life to the fullest, then work at a startup and then work at another startup when you're done working at that startup. Or start your own startup. Apply to Y Combinator. Become a billionaire.
All right, we get it. Do people get bored easily? Like if you've been at a startup for 5 years and you're like still working on the same thing, do you feel like that happens? Like burnout of the same product or not really?
Yeah, I think a lot of big tech, you have people that will stay for 10, 15, 20 years. And I don't think that's really the case in the startup scene as much. You definitely still see that, but it's much easier to transition to different teams and do all that stuff at a big tech company where you would be working on like the same project for 10 to 15 years at a smaller company, unless it's like growing and progressing where it's becoming one of the big tech companies and you guys are going into different ventures and industries.
So big tech companies win with this one. If you are looking to have a career and jump all over the place, big tech companies make it really easy to do. All right, next up is work-life balance, just overall flexibility here. Big tech companies have some of the best flexibility I've ever seen. You're usually getting off work at like 5 o'clock every single day. Project sizes are usually really manageable. There's usually not set hours that you have to show up and leave at, so there's a ton of flexibility there. And it's also pretty standard to have work from home days every once in a while.
Yeah, I would say at a startup, the flexibility is going to obviously depend on your company, but for the most part, they definitely skew to be less flexible than big tech companies just because of like overall project size and scope tends to be a bit larger at startup companies. So you have a lot more on your plate, a lot more responsibilities, and sometimes you can be the only one that is working on a single project or for a single client, the only one that knows how to do certain things. And so it's less easy to take time off and to have that flexible work-life balance.
Also because people tend to stay at big tech companies a lot longer, there will be a lot of different people on your team that have kids or like other responsibilities outside of work. And so teams are usually really flexible.
So winner, unfortunately, is big tech on flexibility.
There we go. We're catching up here. I think we're overtaking.
You're ahead now.
Going pretty well, I'd say.
The next area we wanted to highlight is the application process, which at a startup is kind of all over the place. You definitely have to hunt and do your research and reach out and connect with hiring managers and really seek out the opportunities, where big tech is a little different.
It is super easy to apply for roles at big tech companies. Some might even accuse big tech companies of being a little too easy to get a job at. That's a joke, but for reals, it's pretty easy. Big tech companies have a lot more recruiters, and they'll go to almost every single career fair in the country. I mean, in my case, I met Microsoft at the school's career fair, and they had like 6 different employees there and a bunch of recruiters that were all there to answer questions and help you like in the process. It's a lot easier to meet recruiters and to meet alumni that maybe work at these companies and get a foot in the door that way also. So overall, it's just very easy to apply and start that process at big tech.
So application process is also easier at big tech companies. So they win this battle. And the next area that we wanted to highlight is the interview process. So at a startup, interview process is amazing. At my current company, it took about a week and a half from first interview to offer. It was a super quick, super smooth. You know, you met with the recruiter, the hiring manager, and then your team. And it was a really like straightforward, easy process. No like bureaucracy or different like layers or things that you had to go through. Once you apply and like get the first interview, the interview process at startup companies is super smooth and really quick, which I think is amazing. When I was first applying for jobs, my interview process from first interview to offer at Google was 8 weeks, where at my current company, it was a week and a half. So just a much better interview experience at startup companies.
Yeah, I think the only leg up that big tech companies really have here is, again, it's like very streamlined, and you can look on Glassdoor and see like hundreds of people who've gone through the exact same interview process. But what Katie said is pretty much true. Like, the recruiters are hiring you, and there's tons of teams you could be placed on, so it takes a while to like find out which team and to get approval through all the different layers in your application process, and it really does get drawn out a long time at big tech companies.
Yeah, so as far as like the candidate experience, much better at a startup company than big tech, just because the process is much quicker and smoother. It's not drawn out. You can have an offer really fast because they're hiring typically for immediate need versus just like staffing for a team. So startup wins this one. Go team.
What are we at?
Startup.
I think big tech is at 3.
So
process.
1 tie. So we are tie 2, 3.
Big tech is ahead. Next up, we have company prestige. This is really important. I feel like there's always the joke that like if you work at Google, your resume from then on for the rest of your life could just be a blank piece of paper that just says, I worked at Google in crayon or something, and you'd get an interview anywhere. It really does open up your career opportunities when you have a really big name on your resume. And I feel like big tech companies, pretty much everyone knows about them and will think it's cool that you worked there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That is maybe like a knock on working for a startup, is you don't have the instant name recognition. But as far as prestige at a startup, there's so many factors that could progress your career a lot quicker. So you could be, you know, working at a startup for 4 years and be like a director of a massive team, where you would be, you know, like a senior individual contributor at a big tech company. So there's definitely like pros and cons and different ways you can measure prestige going into both big tech and startup. Elon Musk did not get famous or world renowned because he joined Microsoft 10 years after their IPO and worked there for 15 years.
That's true. Good point.
So at some point, I feel like you got to just take the plunge if you want to be
A big deal.
If you want to be the 0.01%.
I feel like it's really prestigious if you're at a startup that becomes a big company. But that really is a nice thing about big tech companies, is almost any of them you work at, everyone will know what the company is and what they do. All right, so the winner here is big tech companies. Let's go, let's go. No, you don't think so?
Police now trying to find this man who was last seen by his family on May 26th.
The next one is everybody's favorite thing to chat about, and our favorite thing to pull out in every video.
Money.
Hey.
What we all work for.
The reason we all wake up in the morning and go into the office is the green. The bread. Bringing home the bread, guys. And as far as bringing home the bread in tech, startup versus big tech.
Big tech companies pay a ton of money. It's pretty public. You can go on Glassdoor and look up salaries, and it is a lot. One of the awesome things about a big tech company is most of them are public. Any stock you get, you can just immediately sell, cash out, and that just counts towards your yearly salary, basically.
So instant rebuttal on the startup side, instant rebuttal. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about startups is that you have to take a lower base salary in the hopes that your stock will be worth something. But in my experience, any startup that's super successful, worth your salt, is going to pay comparably, if not better, than any of the big tech
Why would they
companies.
pay more than Google, who has a
Because-
ton of money in their pockets?
Because they are trying to compete and pull talent from a lot of the big tech companies. So in my role at a startup, I know I'm making more than I would at Google, at Facebook, in a similar role with my work experience.
She's got us there, guys.
So not only do startups pay more sometimes if they're successful in trying to recruit a lot of the big tech company talent, but, and the biggest reason why people work for startups is the stock. So at a big tech company, you're going to get a stock package if they're public, and you're going to vest that, and then it's going to be liquid right away. Startups are a little bit of a delayed gratification, which oftentimes means that they're giving you much larger equity packages because the growth trajectory is at a much steeper incline than a tech company, which is like doing well, like, you know, Twitter or Amazon or Google. You know, it's going to be at a constant trajectory up. But startups, you start going like this and your stock package can be worth millions of dollars. And this is why a lot of people in Silicon Valley are millionaires.
It definitely depends on the startup, of course. Some of them tank and your equity is worth nothing.
Yep.
But we will give her this win. If you choose the right startup, you're going to be making a lot more than at a big tech company. But
Yep.
you still make a ton of money at big tech. Don't worry, guys.
In our battle of these 8 components, we have startup with 3, big tech with 4, and then we have a tie. So obviously, I chose to do startup, Josh chose to do big tech, so it's not a clear-cut battle between those 8 variables because sometimes some are more important to you than others. Do whatever you feel like is right for you and your situation and what you're trying to optimize for. But I hope this video was helpful to you guys to maybe give you some insight into the Silicon Valley window.
Okay, see you guys.
Bye, bye, bye.